And we are doing it live. So that means this. Holy cow.
Wow, it's been a minute since we
We're
had this
back.
little countdown.
I miss the music.
Peyton Manning. See, I can go through this and see so many Broncos.
So many numbers.
Even at number 7, I see not only John Elway, but Craig Morton.
Very good.
Jason Elam, number 1. We don't have a 0 for Jonathan Cooper.
No, we don't. Got to make it happen.
The show begins with an O, close enough to a 0.
And that is orange and blue today. And we are back with you. Yes, you see it. The quarterback job wide open. Sean Payton said it as much. I got to change our camera angle. Sean Payton said wide open for quarterback competition. We are on the eve of the ramp up portion of training camp, Mace, and it's on.
He hasn't eliminated Zach Wilson. It's still a 3-man competition.
I don't like that. I don't like it.
I don't either. You and I discussed this coming out of minicamp when, of course, it was only 2 days, and the 2 days belonged to Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham working with the ones. Man, I feel like there was enough. And again, we didn't see everything in OTAs. We saw one practice a week, so admittedly we had a limited sample size. But the sample size we saw looked like Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix had some distance ahead of Zach Wilson. So I'm not sure that going in with a 3-man rotation here, and presumably that's going to persist, I'd say for at least a week or so. It'll go into full pad time. I don't know if that's the right move here to be properly ready for week 1, but maybe that's not what it's about, Cecil. Maybe it's, even though they're aiming to win week 1, maybe this is about the long term and getting a little bit more of an eye on Zach Wilson just to be sure.
Yeah, does this go into our, speaking of Zach, our Zach Bye question? Because it was about the finding the right guy for Seattle, right? That was
yes.
ZB, our man Bird, who asked that. And then Peyton had it was an interesting day for Sean Payton. Let's just say that. I think he's in regular season mode.
Yes.
I think he's feisty. I don't mind that at all. I like it. But here's his answer
feisty
about
with
finding,
you. We'll get to that later.
Specifically. Yeah, that's going to be fun. But finding the right guy specifically, here's what Coach Payton had to say.
Well, I don't think you balance finding the guy to win against Seattle. I don't think that makes sense, the sentence. I think we're looking to find the guy to beat Seattle, and we're going to find that player. How do I balance the day? How do I balance the schedule? How do I balance the reps? That's all part of what we do relative to teaching and the teaching progression. I think the same thing exists, though. Look, the number one goal is to find the right 53 players here for our team. Certainly there's a lot of focus on the quarterback position because there's open competition there. But I don't look at it as finding the balance. I look at it as finding the player.
Find the right player. I was a little bit confused, and I'll tell ZB this on the air here in 40 minutes, but I was a little confused by that question, but I like the answer.
I like the answer as well. And part of it is, I've said this a few times, it's about sending the right message to the locker room. While the long-term development of Bo Nix is the most crucial thing and will be the most important thing looking over the horizon, you've got a locker room full of guys who are very much playing for now. That, careers are short. How many shots are you going to have?
Right.
You can't go in, look them all in the eye, and start a quarterback who isn't clearly the best quarterback right now. Look, if Bo Nix is the number one quarterback and he's the best guy out there, that's fine. But you can't go look around, ask those guys to put their bodies on the line, and tell them, hey, in this short career time you're going to have, I'm not going to play the best guy. I'm going to play the guy who happens to be the number one overall pick, the first round pick and has the pedigree, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't do that and maintain the respect. And that's a delicate line that has to be walked here. I think it would be a little easier though for Sean Payton to make this call if there were somebody in that room who I think it had the body of work that instilled more confidence. Because respectfully to Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, what we've seen of them in their careers to date doesn't instill the kind of confidence that, say, if you had Jacoby Brissett like the New England Patriots have, there is some confidence that he can keep that boat sailing, that he can keep things afloat. And so when Gerard Mayo will get up there and say that Brissett's ahead of Drake May, and he didn't say this specifically, but the signs are indicating that Brissett's going to start and then May is going to watch. He can say that, and there's not going to be the same wringing of hands outside of the locker room that I think you'll see in Broncos country if Bo Nix is not the week one starter.
Yeah, and I'll say in Minnesota, they've already said Sam Darnold's their guy. Mm-hmm. Like he's getting almost all the first team reps, and JJ's going to wait.
And the Broncos wanted Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make this clear. They wanted Sam Darnold. They were looking at him. The price point got too high. Again, you're navigating the salary cap crater. So they were in on Sam Darnold and they were in on Sam Howell. The two Sams. Sam Howell went to Seattle. Sam Darnold went to Minnesota. Zach Wilson very much kind of a contingency plan. But if you'd had Darnold or Howell and they were the bridge quarterback to Bo Nix, I think either one would have probably been an easier sell to the public if they're the better quarterback than Bo Nix in training camp. Then, Jarrett Stidham could come on the practice field and play well, and that might be able to be something you can sell to the locker room. But I don't know if you're going to be able to sell that to the fans. But that being said, I don't think that really matters to Sean Payton what the thoughts are on the outside. That's something else he got into today.
Outside thoughts do not matter to Sean Payton, which we're fine with. Yeah. That's good, baby. That's good. It's good. And I think I was going to write about this, but I might run out of time, Mace, because I'm writing about something else today.
What are you writing about? I just want to make sure we don't step on each other's toes.
Sean Payton's in regular season mode, like Feisty Sean. We're right about Feisty Sean today.
So you can include that clip. I put that clip out on social.
I did see that.
We'll play that.
We'll get into it a little bit.
I got some thoughts.
We'll get in a little bit. Well, take it easy on me. I
am. We're 4 hours removed. I'm good.
For two, I will say this: Jarrett Stidham needs to be head and shoulders above Nix, and I just don't think he will be. Jarrett Stidham can be steadier. If you and I were to rate the offseason, we would say Jarrett Stidham was better than Bo Nix, but he wasn't head and shoulders better than Bo Nix. I think for this franchise in 2025, when they will be competing for a playoff spot, you want as much Bo Nix as possible when he's ready. I'm not saying force him out there, but I'll ask you a simple question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Is Jarrett Stidham going to be head and shoulders above Bo at the end of training camp?
I think maybe on the practice field, perhaps, but I also
including preseason games.
Okay,
including
that's
preseason
why I said
games.
The practice field.
Yes.
The thing that we could see is that Jarrett Stidham is a better practice player, and Bo Nix is more of a gamer. The thing that happens to Jarrett Stidham that we saw. We have a body of work of 4 starts, 2 with the Raiders, 2 with the Broncos. And yeah, that's a small sample size. I get that. But one of the things that we have seen is that he struggles under duress. Mm-hmm. And he gets off rhythm and he holds the ball too long. That was something we saw, especially in that second start that he had with the Raiders. People like, oh, well, he played great against the 49ers. What happened next when the Raiders played the Chiefs? The following week, Raiders-Chiefs, end of the season in Las Vegas. I think I said played against the Raiders, my bad. Yep. Raiders against the Chiefs, got sacked 6 times. what we saw, and again, bad game for Cam Fleming working in place of Mike McGlinchey at right tackle, but we saw him break down under pressure as well. And that's the concern I have. Is Jarrett Stidham going to be that quarterback who just looks better in practice? You've got a Star Wars shirt on, so I'll quote Han Solo. Good against remotes is one thing. Good against the living, that's something else. Good against remotes is like being good in practice. Whereas I could see Bo Nix rising as he gets into the games. Now, what that means for a decision, that's ultimately up to Sean Payton. The other thing, Cecil, that you have to weigh here is this. If you get off to a bad start with Bo Nix, you don't have the option really of going to Jarrett Stidham. You go to Bo Nix, that is the point of no return. Okay?
It's your job.
It is his, and you are riding him until you know he's not the guy. Okay. Yes, we've seen in football history a young quarterback lose the job, get it back. John Elway, 1983. We're in a different world now than we were back then. 41 years is a long, long time. So if you start Bo Nix, that's it. You're committing. It's what back in TV, a friend of mine used to say, you hit the big red button. That meant you were cutting the video permanently. Like you couldn't go back from there. You're hitting the red button. That's it. But if you start Jarrett Stidham and you get off to a poor start, you've got the button you can hit to put Bo Nix in to shake it up. Yep. And why I think ultimately, I think Stidham's going to look just that tick better in practice over the course of the summer, enough to give Sean Payton the reason to justify him starting. But then when struggles hit, I've said this team will be 0-3, then you hit the button. But you have that flexibility. Kid. Yes.
Yeah, you put in the kid. That's what you need to be focused on.
And with no pressure, because if you start off slowly and you put Bo Nix in, all of a sudden, I mean,
I will say this. I agree with that sentiment, Mace, but I'll say this, and I have to clean it up for YouTube purposes so we don't get demonetized.
Okay.
F pressure. I want the guy with the pressure. Yeah, hey, Bo, go win. I want him to thrive under pressure. Old saying, and Quinn Miners, I think, quoted it today. Pressure creates diamonds.
Yeah.
So I understand like kind of hiding him or keeping him away from pressure, but at the end of the day, baby, it's the NFL. You got to play.
Yeah.
You got to play. You got to make it happen.
Yeah. Pressure creates diamonds. Cameron Fry was so tight that Ferris Bueller said he could create a diamond.
In a certain way, that's for sure.
If it took a piece of coal and stuck it, I'll go with the TV edit there, over the broadcast TV edit. If you took a piece of coal and stuck it up his fist.
That is right. We do have Sean Payton talking about the quarterback rotation. Is this where he says it's open competition?
Yes.
And then Nick's on a quick study. So let's get to that quarterback rotation. Here's what Coach had to say.
Yeah, Coach. Your quarterback rotation coming in. We know you started number one. All three had reps with the first team offense. How are you going to do it here in camp?
Yeah, we'll mix it up again. Obviously, it won't stay that way for the long term, but as we get started, we'll keep you posted, and eventually we'll settle into the routine we want.
Sean, following up on that, then does it just go from 3 to 2 to 1, or I guess how do you envision sort of
We'll keep you posted. I'm not going to sit here and lay out here's how it goes, because I think the mistake made is deciding how it goes. Organically, this my experience I think we'll see a rotation initially, and then we'll move on from there.
That was the opening of the press conference, by the way, and that's where it
sent a message.
Sean Payton really was in regular season mode today. Like the expansive answers of the off season, the 30-minute press conferences, taking every question. Done.
Friendly banter, done.
There was an edge to him today.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. People
Of course-
seem to think I'm online that I'm like bothered because Sean Payton owned me or whatever. Somebody in the chat said that. I'm like, you think I'm bothered by that? You don't know me like at all. And it isn't about me. It's about Sean being in regular season mode. Let's flip and go, man. Let's fire this thing up. And yeah, he has praised Lucas Krull this offseason. And you and I have said Lucas Krull was, one of the standout players. I think there's 4 players that were the best of the offseason. Krull's on that list. You can say Quinn Miners and PS2. That's what he says. And I'll play the clip, Mace. But it's like Krull, Jaleel McLaughlin. Like every day we went to practice and we don't see what they see. They get to watch the film. We get to watch it live once and then we're gone. But every day when we showed up, we saw guys like Jaleel make plays. We saw guys like Krull make plays. Of course, PS2's making plays when he was out there. Sometimes he wasn't as much, but
yeah.
Either way, it was a day. Sean Payton was feeling it. And I guess I'll play it now.
I thought you were setting it up. Sorry. Like you set that up so perfectly. I'm just like, yep, there you go. Like,
okay, here we go, everybody.
Coach Cecil Lammey, Denver Sports. I'm going to piggyback on the Greg Dulcich thing. How far behind is he based on Lucas Krull was maybe your best player this entire offseason? And I hope you had a good summer, by the way.
I do too. But did you say Lucas was our best player or best tight end?
It's arguable. He was among
No,
the
it
best.
wasn't. No, it wasn't.
No?
All right, I'll answer your question,
Okay.
but you're not close.
Tell me who was then.
We expect the tight ends to be back. We expect Greg to practice. I don't expect anyone to be on his piggyback or anything like that. I expect Lucas Krull to make progress like he has. We were encouraged with what he did. And I think that position is important. These guys present different skill sets. Some guys block better, other guys are better receivers. Hopefully Greg can stay healthy, and we go from there.
Coach Woody Page, I didn't introduce.
But I would go with Meinertz. I would go with Surtain. I would go with these other players if you were wanting to know.
Woody Page, parts unknown.
Go ahead.
you got the sigh at the end. See,
It's
okay.
the end.
Here's the thing. All right. This is just my take on it. So it's the whole thing. Like sometimes I'm not very good at reading the room sometimes, but I could read that Sean was not kind of in that place. I think like where you went too far was kind of doubling down. Like he gave you the opportunity to say one of the best tight ends rather than one of the best players. As you told me, we were talking on the phone a couple hours ago, you wanted to get the response about if he was one of the best players. But that's where I was like, I'm like, oh my God, that was not, I have to admit, I cringed a little bit. when
You said it was terrible. I'll seek the truth and speak the truth. You told me in live time it was terrible. Didn't make me real happy. But like I told you, I said, I don't mean to offend. I just want to get an answer. And I think that was a damn good answer.
It was, but the thing is, like, sometimes we have to like not try to act like we know everything. I'm interested in what he's saying, and I think sometimes I'm guilty of this too, trying to show that we're trying to show what we know a little bit, right? But sometimes it's like it's not what I know. I want to know what he knows, right? Like and the other thing also, like I said earlier, we only saw 5 practices. We didn't see all of them. So he did say Lucas Krull was looking good and that everybody during OTAs told him that everyone's going to know his name. The question that I asked back in May. But yeah, I'll admit, like my first reaction to that was, oh God. Oh God. I just, oh boy.
Well, I'd say of the local media, you and I get along with Sean maybe more than others. But there are no problems there. And it's never about us, ever. or BK.
But the kind of the eye roll and the sigh.
God.
And he was still rolling his eyes about it when he left the room. Like that's the thing. Like that's kind of what got me is like the press conference ended like a couple of minutes later, and he was still like just exasperated by that. Like,
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what we can't. That's what we can't see. That's what we didn't have the video of. But like,
yes.
Yeah, and that's when I think that's when I was like, oh, I think I was just like, oh man, because I'm like, that's.
It was spicy. It was spicy, Sean. I like spicy, Sean.
It was, but man, like sometimes I'm not gonna poke the bear. I'm not gonna do it because I want to get a usable answer. What I mean,
right. Well, we got a viral moment, somewhat. And that's not the reasoning behind that. My reasoning behind that, and Zach asked the question about Dulcich without the microphone, by the way. Zach, I'm going to call out ZB for that because Coach actually called on him personally, which we're technically not supposed to do, but whatever. So I had to flower up another Dulcich question because Greg is really behind things, man. He's behind. And I know Coach said, we expect him to stay healthy, and some tight ends block better, and sometimes they are better receivers. You could say Dulcich is a better receiver than Krull, but we haven't seen it in so long. I mean, I guess the impetus of my question, Mace, not to flex my muscles. I was at every practice, Coach. Like, no, he knows that. It was more to just be like, man, if you had a star like Lucas Krull on the rise, and then you're Greg Dulcich, you come back to the party, and like the party's passed you by.
At the same time, we're going to learn more about Krull as the pads go on. And also, the first day that we were out there was definitely Krull's best day. There were plays in the 4 practices we saw in OTAs and minicamp after that. But the high point was the first day. So it's like, okay, what's coming next? Like, right. That's the thing. So that's, was he the best tight end out there? I mean, you could argue that he was.
Sure.
I think maybe a better way of saying it would have been, instead of the best player, most improved. Because when he says the best players, they're minors and PS2, he's right. They are right. I think objectively the best players on this team. And Lucas Krull, I think maybe is one of the most improved players on this team, but not yet one of the best players on this team. Saying he's the best to me maybe was a little, and this is, maybe it was a little hot takey for my taste, but you are more of the radio person than I am. Okay.
And I said arguably. I didn't say he was the best player. I said
radio discussion is ultimately about a lot of argument and debate.
It is.
Yes.
We can talk about it. And how long do you get till you get to a skill position? Because I'm thinking of, okay, well, who's the third best player? All right, probably Zach Allen. You know what I mean? Like, how long do you go down that list of here are your best Broncos before you get to a skill guy? It's a while.
It's a while. Let's talk about, like, if we just say best players on the team. You said Zach Allen. I would say you throw in, based on what we saw, Baron Browning when he's healthy is one of the best players on the team. Garrett Bolles, and I know, forget about what he was a few years ago. Garrett Bolles is one of the best players on the Broncos.
Cornerstone piece.
Garrett Bolles is you've got 32 starting left tackles. He's probably in the top dozen. So he's a top dozen player at a premium position. So he's in that conversation. See, I would say Nick Benito is kind of like Lucas Krull, one of the most improved players. I'm not ready to say one of the best players just yet. Most improved? Absolutely. You actually probably don't have to go as far down the list as you might think, because this team has so many question marks.
Unproven talent.
Yes. Now, could it all blossom? Yes. Like, I mean, there's a universe where this team just coalesces and everybody kind of rides the wave, and there's this collective improvement, and the Broncos end up shocking the world. We have to discuss this because, you know what? I feel like I don't want to sit here and do a show where we're saying this team is doomed here on July 23rd.
Oh, no, not whatsoever. And not because I suggested 9 wins as a possibility, but it's like our record.
You're actually naturally more optimistic than I am, Cecil, by the way. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's funny. It's funny that we're kind of wired that way. You know what I mean? Like
I'm 7 wins and I feel like I'm stretching.
Yeah, and I wrote it down. I wrote down our schedule, like guesses are really not that far off. 7-10, 9-8. And there's a couple of important games. I'd say it's, Seattle, which we both have as losses. I think the Pittsburgh game is where I go, forget Russell Wilson, and you say, well, it's going to be tough to beat the Steelers. But it's like there's a couple of games. That's how tight it is this year, and that's where a good coach comes into play.
But here's the other thing also. Let's say Steelers. First of all,
okay.
I mentioned all the question marks on the roster. Steelers have an objectively better roster than the Broncos.
Yes.
Proven. Like, doesn't mean the Broncos can't get there, but are they going to be there by week 2? Pardon me. I highly doubt that. Number 2, is Sean Payton a very good coach? Yeah, he's top 10 coach in the league. You know who else is a top 10 coach? Mike Tomlin. So effectively, the advantage the Broncos have on the sideline, I believe, is neutralized by Mike Tomlin over there on the Steelers bench.
It's a fair argument.
So that's where I added up that even though I think Peyton tactically is going to throw the kitchen sink at the Steelers, I don't think it'll be enough.
We are fixing to find out, but there's there's reasons for hope, and part of that is Bo Nix, and Bo Nix being a quick study.
Yes.
I want to play this for everybody because here's what Coach had to say about Nix picking things up.
Look, he's a quick study, so the progress in the playbook will be just like it will be for Zach, right? They've both been here the same amount of time, I think. And, all of these young players are studying pretty hard.
Same as Zach?
Yeah, well, Zach Wilson just got here, right? I mean, Zach Wilson was traded for on the Monday of the draft week, so there's literally like 76 hours or so separating their arrival times. Actually, in terms of their arrival, like it's Bo Nix. Yeah, I was thinking like Zach Wilson actually was in the building that week, I believe. So yeah, he did get there before Bo Nix, but
So how do you want to tell that, Mace? Because I'll ask you this question. It's just like Zach. Well, either he's putting the pressure on Bo Nix to learn like a veteran, or it's the apophatic way of like, well, Zach's going to keep up with the rookie. Shouldn't Zach be ahead of the rookie?
Well, you think he should, but he too is learning a new scheme. I think he's pointing out by saying that there's only one person who's in their second year, and I've heard for other positions, I had that conversation with Zach Streif last month about the value on the offensive line of being back in the scheme for a second year. Well, you got 3 quarterbacks, only one of them is in his second year in the scheme. That's Jarrett Stidham. And does that naturally give him an edge? I think that there was something there. If we're peeling back the layers of it, I think there's something there where he's actually making a comment about the advantage that Stiddy has.
I like it. Sometimes it's what's unspoken.
Yeah. It's like you have to hear the notes that aren't being played.
Right. And you have to stay tuned in.
As Lisa Simpson said, to which the person she said that to said, I can do that sitting at home. At a it's like a jazz concert. Like, you have to hear the notes that aren't being played. I can do that at home.
Jarrett Stidham is your best quarterback on the field so far.
Yes.
There's another Simpson reference for you. Although I can't remember
the best day, the worst day of my life, the worst day of your life so far.
So far.
Yeah. The worst. Yeah. if we're gonna do doomsaying on the Broncos, worst season in Broncos history. Worst season in Broncos history so far. No, it's not gonna be that way.
Yeah, well, Seattle's going to be tough to start out with. So, is that Jarrett Stidham week 1? We're going to know. We're going to see it. I don't know if it was this show or if we want to do another show on it, Mace, but you and I were talking about, well, when does this decision need to be made? It's an open competition right now. I told you Zach Wilson's got like a week. So good luck, Zach. And then let's get to 2. Let's get to 2. Okay, it's 2. It's Stidham and it's Nick. Zach Wilson should not be part of this. Whatever. Give him a week. Whatever. But when is the right time?
Let's kind of go through the demarcation points of training camp here, okay?
Okay.
First demarcation point is you have the 2 days of acclimation, then you have the 2 days of kind of ramping up Friday and Saturday, then you have a day off. So demarcation point number 1 on Sunday. You're not doing anything then. I hope nothing's going down then. I just want to have a, kind of relaxing day, stroll around farmer's market or something. A week later, that following Sunday, I think that's the demarcation point where you want to narrow that thing down. The following week, then you get into preseason. And your first game on the 11th in Indianapolis, your second game on the 18th against the Packers. If you narrow it down to 2 after a week and a half of training camp and you've gotten in some good quality full pad work, if you narrow it down, then you're basically be able to say, okay, we got 2 games here. We're going to give each of the 2 a start. Now, there's one other thing that I was thinking about as I was doing that, and this is an opportunity to keep it open as a 3-way competition through the Packer game. What if you decide Colts game, Packers joint practice, Packers game? And then you could justify giving each a run as the first teamer. But I think then you're getting to a relatively late point in camp, especially when that 3rd preseason game last year, remember, Broncos sat the starters. That was the Showcase Albert O for trade game. I remember looking at the Broncos warming up before that preseason finale and I think they had like 40 guys in uniform. It looked like a high school team, and I'm not a big high school team. It looked like my high school, St. Petersburg High, which would go 0-10 or 2-8 every year or whatever back in the day. And you'd see some of these other schools, and they had like 75 players, and we had like 35. Like, of course we're getting killed. Look at how many people we have compared to what they have.
Yep. I'll tell a high school story. We played 6-man football. We had 9 guys in high school. 9. There were 30 people in my high school total. Yeah. So it sounds like a good ratio, right? Wow.
How many guys? Did you have 30?
9. We had 30 people.
No, 30 people in the high school. How many male students in the high school?
9. And 21 girls.
Some would say that's a nice ratio.
Yeah, here's the problem. I'm related to everybody back there. I had to drive 30 minutes just to hold hands. Anyway.
How big was the town you were in, Cecil?
Grover's probably less than 100 people.
Okay,
including the dogs and cats.
Okay, yeah,
it's small. It's small. I don't know if you Google Grover, Colorado population, I'm sure it's going to say like 100, 200 maybe.
I was going to say I went to high school in a city that has a population of 261,000 people, and the metro area has a population of 2.9 million. So yeah. I had a slightly different experience than you.
Oh, that is correct. Oh, we got some experiences to share together, Mace. It's called Broncos practice. Now, it's not open to the public until Friday, but you and I will be out there tomorrow. What did you call it? Like the ramp up period?
The team is calling it the acclimation period.
Acclimation period. Okay, there we go. Acclimation period. We got 2 days of that. We're going to bring you OBT2 tonight on Quinn Miners. Make sure to stay tuned for that. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of OBTs, and we're going to have plenty of Saturday and or Sunday shows, depending on what the algorithm tells us. We're here to serve you, our audience, and our YouTube overlords, Mace. That's basically what we do on the show. But to help us out, to fight back or fight with our YouTube overlords, How can the audience help us out?
Like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
so that you
Never
never miss a vid.
vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.